when people are accused of witchcraft, their own biological children will disown them. They will say that you are no longer my mom. You are now some kind of demon.
Welcome to Witch Hunt, the podcast exposing the violent reality of modern witchcraft accusations. I'm Josh Hutchinson.
And I'm Sarah Jack. Witchcraft accusations are still a major problem in many parts of the world today, with devastating consequences for victims.
The impacts on victims can include physical violence, social ostracization, economic deprivation, mental health issues, and even death.
In recognition of this global crisis, August 10th has been designated World Day Against Witch Hunts, a day dedicated to advocating against witchcraft accusation-related violence. This year's theme is exposing the Witchfinders, those people who facilitate violence against persons accused of witchcraft by suggesting that a certain problem was caused by witchcraft, or by identifying specific individuals as perpetrators of malefic witchcraft.
When people want to know if witchcraft has been used against them, their property, or their loved ones, they often turn to perceived experts for assistance. These can be religious or civil authorities, or they can be spiritual entrepreneurs who earn a living through such practices as identifying supposed witches.
Our focus today is not on any specific faith or belief system, but rather on people who exploit faith and belief for personal gain.
These individuals put other lives at risk by stoking the flames of anger when tragedy strikes.
In this episode, we will discuss not only the Witchfinders, but the nature of the witch hunt crisis itself.
We will begin by explaining what World Day Against Witch Hunts is. Then we'll talk about the crisis of violence and other harmful practices related to accusations of witchcraft and ritual attacks.
Next, we will look at the Witchfinders themselves. Who are they? How do they operate? What are their motivations? And what impact do they have on their victims?
World Day Against Witch Hunts was founded in 2020 by Missio, the Pontifical Mission Societies, to address the problem of harmful practices related to accusations of witchcraft and ritual attacks.
According to Missio, it is no coincidence that Missio has chosen August 10th to announce the Day of Remembrance. On August 10th, 2012, Christina, a young mother in a village in Papua New Guinea, managed to escape the torture of witch hunters.
Since 2020, World Day Against Witch Hunts has been dedicated to all victims of witch hunts.
This day is meant to raise awareness for the ongoing crisis, which affects thousands of people every year.
Dirk Bingener, president of Missio's Aachen, Germany branch, says silence has been maintained for too long.
Sister Lorena Janelle, who works against sorcery accusation-related violence in Papua New Guinea, says World Day Against Witch Hunts is a cry for help against human rights violations.
As we have stated, this year's focus is on those who facilitate, aid, and abet attacks on persons suspected of witchcraft.
Before we get into detail on these Witchfinders, let's first establish what these harmful practices are.
Here on Witch Hunt, 25 episodes of the podcast have focused on the modern crisis of harmful practices related to accusations of witchcraft and ritual attacks.
From those conversations, we can say that these harmful practices are cases when someone harms another person whom they suspect has bewitched them, their kin, or their property. And ritual attacks include the harmful practice of removing body parts from persons with albinism for the sake of creating medicine.
To understand why people believe others are guilty of witchcraft, we should understand what is meant by witchcraft in these cases and what exactly is meant by witch. Francis Young offered the following definition of witchcraft.
Witchcraft is whatever people who consider themselves to be witches do, or it is whatever people who are accused by others of being witches are said to do. The definition I went for was instances where a human being is said to have caused some kind of supernatural evil to someone or channeled some kind of supernatural evil.
And Marion Gibson told us,
the witch is a very movable thing, but often defined as an enemy. So one of the places that the witch fits into society, even over such a long historical period, is that they are a very useful enemy.
And what is magic? Marion Gibson provided this definition.
I think magic is a force which cannot be explained by other factors such as science, rationality, observable physical or material changes of that kind. But it's more than that, really. It's what people choose to define as magic.
It is important to note that witch is an English word that does not precisely fit every concept of a sinister magic user or occult practitioner. Around the world, there are hundreds of words that roughly translate to witch or sorcerer, but have more nuanced meanings.
And the definition of witch varies from place to place and culture to culture and evolves over time.
In the West, the word witch today largely means a person who self-identifies as a witch, Wiccan, pagan, or related faith practitioner.
And the term witch hunt largely refers to any reputedly unjust inquiry or investigation of any kind.
But throughout much of the world, witch still means an evildoer using magic, occult forces, or spirits for personal gain or to cause harm to others. This is the majority belief in many nations and a belief held by a still notable portion of the populations of most other nations, including in the United States and the UK.
What are witches specifically in the African context? Nigerian advocate Leo Igwe had the following to say.
When we say witches in Africa, we mean people who fly out at night and go and suck blood on the roadside. That's what we mean. And when we say witches exist, that's what we're addressing. So for us, at our organization, it is a myth. Nobody flies out at night while others are sleeping to go and suck blood on the roadside. Nobody flies out at night to go and poison people and kill them spiritually and all that.
Akaksha Madan told us about witchcraft beliefs in India.
These witches, they have all the power to influence the mind and body of any person.
She also described the sinister aspect of the witch.
The practices which a witch is following is always negative, always supernatural. Supernatural in the sense that mostly they will use this power to spread disease in a society. They are the reasons for any kind of quarrels in the families. If there's any kind of natural calamities, people will blame these witches only.
Witches are often believed to have the ability to cause harm through magical means. As economist Boris Gershman told us, a survey on religious and spiritual beliefs across the globe asked the following question.
Do you believe in the evil eye, or that certain people have an ability to cast curses or spells that cause bad things to happen to someone?
While not exclusively, witches are often perceived to be women, particularly older women or widows. South African activist Damon Leff notes.
Older women are often the targets of witchcraft accusation. And of course, it's not exclusively older women, but older women are more likely to become targets of witchcraft accusation because of that power dynamic.
In some beliefs, witchcraft is thought to be inherited, often through the female line. Damon Leff mentions.
In African traditional culture, there is a belief that witchcraft runs through the breast, which means that if the mother is a witch, her children will be a witch because of breastfeeding.
Many beliefs involve witches being active at night, flying, or meeting in secret gatherings. Wonderful Kuchi has said,
the one which is popular in a mythical way is the one people believe that some people during the night, they ride blooms and they go to different places like maybe South Africa, or even some people say they do even reach as far as America. Just within seconds, they start off from here and then they go to these far places. And people say the witches do meets at the graveyard where they eat the human bodies.
Some beliefs include the idea that witches can transform into animals or other creatures.
In some contexts, witches are believed to have connections with evil spirits, demons, or devils.
Regardless of the exact belief about witches, witchcraft accusations that spur violence are the true witch hunts of the modern world.
Real people die every day due to accusations of witchcraft and the fear and anger that ensues.
While many victims are killed, others face bullying, ostracism, physical violence, sexual violence, or banishment, very often accompanied by long-term psychological trauma.
The idea of witchcraft accusations as being a thing of the past is inaccurate. In some regions, it is more prevalent now than ever before.
Indeed, witchcraft accusations and violence are not just historical issues, but ongoing problems in many parts of the world today. As historian Wolfgang Behringer has noted, there are now more people dying in witch hunts than ever before.
The impacts go beyond just the accused. Entire families and communities are affected. As Damon Leff states,
It doesn't just affect the family that's accused, it affects everybody in that village. The chaos unleashed by an accusation affects the youngest members of that entire village.
Witch hunts are occurring in over 60 nations today, affecting potentially tens or even hundreds of thousands of people every year, including multitudes of children, displaced from their homes by their own parents, and children used as weapons of war.
Tanzania alone has lost tens of thousands of people to witch hunts since independence in 1961. And in Papua New Guinea, there's what is described as an epidemic of sorcery accusation related violence. And these nations are far from alone.
Witch hunting is common in many African nations, South Asia, the Pacific, and Latin America, with cases occurring in North America and Europe as well.
Boris Gershman's research found that about 40% of people in his global sample believed in witchcraft as defined as the evil eye or an ability to cast curses or spells that cause bad things to happen to someone. In the United States, 16% of the population held such beliefs. In the UK, the rate was 13%.
Witch hunts remain a significant and persistent problem in many parts of the world, affecting a substantial number of people and communities. However, exact statistics are hard to come by due to underreporting and lack of comprehensive data collection.
The UN identified 20,000 cases over 10 years, and that's the tip of the iceberg. The real numbers could be much higher, as many cases of witch hunting go unreported due to fear, shame, or lack of proper reporting mechanisms, suggesting the problem may be even more widespread than official figures indicate.
According to a United Nations report released in 2023, harmful practices related to accusations of witchcraft and ritual attacks occurred in at least 60 nations between 2009 and 2019.
Even in jurisdictions with laws prohibiting witch hunting, harmful practices continue.
Ria A. Singh told us that in one Indian state, Chhattisgarh, a law against witchcraft accusations was passed in 2005, after which
Around 1,500 police cases were reported in the state, and over 90% of the women were either widows or women separated from husbands or women with no children.
On this podcast, we've spoken to advocates working in South Africa, Nigeria, India, Malawi, Ghana, Papua New Guinea, Namibia, the US, and the UK.
Be sure to catch up on all those insightful episodes after this and stay tuned to Witch Hunt Podcast for upcoming episodes involving additional nations.
So when do witch hunts occur? Miranda Forsyth notes,
So I find it helpful to think of a wildfire and to think, first of all, of the idea that you need to have a conducive landscape, right? So when for a wildfire, you need to have a dry landscape with lots of buildup of fuel. But for a sorcery accusation, the kind of conducive landscape, there's a cultural and there's a socioeconomic dimension to it. From the cultural dimension, you need to have a population in which there is a belief that if misfortune occurs, it can be the result of somebody using supernatural forces in a deliberate or an unconscious way. So that's the worldview, if you like, of an acceptance of a magical explanation for misfortune. So the conducive landscape, then you also need to have a trigger event. And that trigger event we find is often a death or a sickness, particularly a death of a child or a sort of an unusual death. But a lot of people say there is no such thing as a normal death. Almost any death can potentially be seen as having been caused by sorcery. So that trigger event then gives rise to suspicions, to gossip.
In times of social and economic stress, incidents of witch hunting increase. Ikpenwoza Arrow states,
one aspect about so-called witchcraft practices or accusations of witchcraft is that they tend to go up when there's socioeconomic pressures. So the literature is rife with data showing that when there was a drought or a famine or some kind of economic collapse, accusations of witchcraft went up.
Accusations can also flourish during periods of rapid social change or development.
Witch hunts occur in ongoing cycles in affected communities. Accusations can build over time, with suspicions growing until violence erupts.
Accusations have also been leveled following dreams or visions. In some cases, accusations start after someone claims to have seen the alleged witch in a dream.
In some cases, accusations arise during community gatherings or events. Miranda Forsyth explains.
These are often aired at what are called house cry or funerals that can take place over many days. And so there's a lot of people together gossiping, and there's concerns raised about, okay, well, how did this happen?
Family disputes, such as competition for resources in polygamous households or disputes over bride prices and dowries, can lead to witchcraft accusations.
Economist Boris Gershman has noted that people who become too successful might be accused of using witchcraft to achieve their success.
In some places, witch hunts are an ongoing phenomenon, not tied to specific events or times.
While many think of witch hunts as a historical phenomenon, they are very much a present day issue in many parts of the world.
Witch hunts happen around the world. Jordan Alexander told us about a troubling murder in the United Kingdom.
In the year 2000, we had the fatal case of Victoria Climbié, who was killed in the UK. And it was labeled as one of the biggest child abuse investigations of its time. It then became apparent that she had been accused of being a witch, or she'd been branded a witch.
And that killing was soon followed by a ritual attack on a young boy.
And then 6 months later, Adam, or known as the boy in the river, was trafficked into the UK for a ritual sacrifice or multi-murder. And so it wasn't a rare case.
The next question is, why do witch hunts still occur in the 21st century?
As economist Boris Gershman outlined for us, deeply ingrained beliefs in witchcraft remain in many nations around the world.
The first kind of observation I make in my paper is that first, the prevalence of witchcraft beliefs is high overall. So it's about 40% of the people in the entire sample that claim to believe in witchcraft, as I defined earlier. So that's 4 out of 10. That's a lot.
Witchcraft accusations are efforts to explain why bad things happen. As Leo Igwe states,
Witchcraft suspicion is pervasive. Pervasive in the sense that when things happen to people, using witchcraft is one of the ways they try to make sense of it.
As Alice Markham Cantor told us,
just like Salem, witch hunts happening today are happening because of complex political, economic, and religious forces.
people use witchcraft to explain the world as a way to make sense of misfortunes, enforce social norms, resolve conflicts, provide psychological comfort, and address economic and political challenges.
these beliefs and practices are deeply embedded in cultural, social, and religious contexts, and they serve various functions that help individuals and communities navigate complex and uncertain realities.
There are often economic motivations behind witchcraft accusations, such as land grabbing or eliminating economic rivals. Amit Anand notes,
property dispute is one of the main reasons for witchcraft accusations in India. And this happens because you have a woman who is single, might be a widow as well, and she has some property in her name. And then you have her own family members, main family members. Very rarely would it be a stranger who accuses her of being a witch. Mostly it will be men in her own family who does that to her, just because they have the intention of grabbing the property. So property disputes is one of the very big reasons for witchcraft accusations.
And Govind Kelkar has confirmed.
Sometimes it is close neighbors, extended, who are likely to get hold of some property by extension the woman has.
As Boris Gershman says, witchcraft beliefs and fears stifle creativity and entrepreneurship.
Witchcraft beliefs and the fears that they generate essentially enforce cultural conformity or social conformity, because anyone who transgresses social norms in any ways, anyone who violates the status quo in any way, has this perceived likelihood of being bewitched or being accused of witchcraft, both of which are terrifying from the perspective of that person.
Gender inequality is a factor in many witchcraft accusations, as women, especially older women, are disproportionately targeted, reflecting societal power imbalances. Samantha Spence has said,
So these accusations primarily target women, and they are primarily targeting the vulnerable and the marginalized in society. So what that does is it perpetuates inequality. It reinforces discriminatory norms and attitudes towards women.
In some traditional power structures, witchfinders and spiritual leaders often benefit from and perpetuate these beliefs.
often confusion over cause of illness or death contributes to witchcraft accusations.
So, who are the people involved in witchcraft accusations and associated harmful practices?
Those who commit violence against persons accused of witchcraft are ordinary people like you and me, who are challenged by extreme fear and often influenced by other pressures and passions.
Family members accuse family members of witchcraft. Neighbors accuse neighbors. Often, entire communities participate in or condone these practices.
In some cases, specialized witchfinders, diviners, and traditional healers are called upon to identify witches.
Religious leaders may also get involved. Leo Igwe mentions pastors, imams, and indigenous spiritualists as being involved in accusations.
In some cases, local leaders or chiefs may be involved in or sanction these practices.
In many cases, groups or mobs carry out violence against accused individuals.
In Papua New Guinea, glassmen and glassmaris are diviners who identify witches.
In some religious contexts, prayer warriors may be involved in identifying or exorcising witches.
Miranda Forsyth refers to specialists who profit from identifying witches or perform exorcisms as spiritual entrepreneurs.
Just as perpetrators do not conform to any specific demographics, anyone can be a victim of a witch hunt, regardless of age, race, gender, or other identifying factors. However, members of marginalized communities are often more vulnerable.
Elderly people, especially older women, are also often accused due to their age and perceived vulnerability.
Widows are often accused after the deaths of their husbands. Samantha Spence has said,
For witchcraft accusations, they are mainly elderly women or widows or those from marginalized communities who become the primary targets. And they used to scapegoat and target these women who are perceived as vulnerable or who deviate from what the society perceives as normal.
The poor are frequently targeted, in part due to their perceived lack of ability to bring others to their defense or obtain legal aid.
in India, caste is a prevalent factor in witch hunts. Preeti Lolaksha Nagavini told us,
In India, with patriarchy, there's a combination of caste and class, with caste often emerging as a dominant reason for the practice of witchcraft and witch hunting of Dalit women. And I've heard the activists claim that the accusations of witchcraft against Dalit women are often used as a common ways to kill them.
Dalit women are especially vulnerable in general, and specifically to witchcraft accusations.
Witch hunting is one of the very important ways in which Dalit women have been hunted down in the past so many centuries. While both Dalit men and women are subjected to various kinds of hardships and handicaps, Dalit women face a triple threat of caste, class, and gender.
people with mental illnesses, disabilities, or conditions like dementia are often misunderstood and accused of witchcraft.
Migrants or newcomers to a community are often viewed with suspicion and can be blamed for any misfortune occurring after their arrival.
Single women without family protection are vulnerable.
Indigenous peoples are often targeted due to traditional practices or beliefs.
Entire families can be accused. As Damon Left states,
One family will accuse another family. And of course, if one person in that family is accused, the entire family is implicated in the accusation.
Children are often victims of witch hunts and forced to flee for their lives, especially across parts of Africa. As Miranda Forsyth mentions, this problem is also appearing in Papua New Guinea now.
We're also noticing that children are starting to be accused, which is a really disturbing trend as well.
according to the United Nations, estimates suggest that each year in Africa, hundreds of thousands of children are victims of accusations of witchcraft and ritual attacks, and consequently suffer grievous human rights violations and abuses. Accusations of witchcraft almost always inflict psychological and physical violence on children and could inflict further harm, including neglect, homelessness, physical disability, and even death.
Let's turn now to witch finding and the people who do it.
Damon Leff told us.
In South Africa, we call it witch finding. The legislators have been using that term in the Witchcraft Suppression Act. So that entails if, for example, you've made an accusation against a neighbor, but you're uncertain and you want some clarity, you will go to the local diviner.
And Leo Igwe said this about witch finding.
They are usually taken to the traditional ruler. But what happens is that if the family, first of all, if they suspect, if they make their suspicion, sometimes they secretly go to some of the traditional healers or priests or Christian pastors or prophets, prayer houses, spiritual home, because there are all sorts of places they go these days. Sometimes it's a mix of traditional and Christian, traditional and Islam. Just a place you can find solution.
Witchfinders go by many titles. They can be political or religious authorities, traditional healers, diviners, glassmen and glassmaries, prayer warriors, prophets, or spiritual entrepreneurs.
Damon Leff had this to say about diviners.
The local diviner is either called an isangoma. Sometimes the Nyanga, the herbalist, will also act as a diviner, but usually it's a very specialist field. In traditional African religion, the use of herbs to make medicine for healing and the aspect of divination are very often separated, but not always. So in this case, the family would seek out the local diviner. The local diviner would then throw bones, speak to the ancestors, and ask the ancestors to confirm or deny the suspicion. Ultimately, unfortunately, always, there's a confirmation, and that will then automatically lead to an attack, a concerted attack against the accused person.
And Miranda Forsyth commented on witch finding in the context of Papua New Guinea.
Then often you have people who will then come in and who will crystallize those sort of suspicions by naming and accusing somebody in a particular way. And those people in Papua New Guinea are often called a glass man or a glass Mary, like a diviner kind of a person. Or they can be Christian prayer warriors as well, who will often identify individuals in order to pray over them. So there's a slightly different motivation between the glass Mary, glass man, and the prayer warrior. The glass man and glass Mary are often paid for their services. And this falls into that category that some of my colleagues call a spiritual entrepreneur, who really benefits from these being seen to have the power to make these kinds of identifications. So then that crystallization of the belief, also it can be used by people who have got something to benefit from the person being accused.
The involvement of religious leaders in witchcraft accusations varies widely depending on the cultural and religious context. Several types of religious and spiritual leaders may be involved in such practices.
When a religious authority denounces someone as a witch or declares someone to be possessed by a spirit or demon, followers of that faith listen.
In some Christian contexts, clergy members or lay people may become involved in witchcraft accusations. For instance, Christian prayer warriors or pastors may identify individuals as witches during prayer sessions or exorcisms.
In many places, churches organize crusades against witchcraft. They run advertising campaigns to draw crowds to services where individuals are accused of witchcraft and spirit possession. These crusades are sometimes led by local religious leaders, but do sometimes involve Western missionary preachers or preachers associated with religious organizations in the West.
Within the Roman Catholic Church, exorcists may occasionally encounter claims related to witchcraft. While the official stance on the Catholic Church discourages the belief that witchcraft itself warrants exorcism, some priests may still engage with these issues, especially in regions where popular belief in witchcraft is prevalent.
Historical cases, such as that of Archbishop Emmanuel Malingo in Zambia, illustrate how Catholic leaders have in the past been involved in these practices. As stated on the Missio website, the Church has also burdened itself with guilt when it comes to the issue of witch hunts, and has a special responsibility due to its history.
In some areas, Pentecostal and evangelical preachers are actively involved in identifying and combating what they perceive as witchcraft. These leaders may conduct deliverance sessions or other rituals aimed at freeing individuals from supposed demonic influences, which can sometimes escalate into witchcraft accusations.
It is worth noting that in some regions, Islamic leaders can also play a role. This is particularly true in areas where Islamic law intersects with local customs, and where accusations of witchcraft or sorcery may arise within the context of broader spiritual or moral concerns.
These religious leaders' involvement can range from direct participation in rituals or accusations to providing theological or spiritual justification for the actions taken against the accused. Their influence often lends credibility to the accusations, making it difficult for the accused to defend themselves or for rational discourse to prevail.
While religious and spiritual authorities may diagnose witchcraft or even identify an individual suspect, it is crucial to note the role of the community in furthering harmful practices by either participating or looking the other way.
The term spiritual entrepreneurs refers to individuals who use their perceived spiritual or supernatural abilities for personal gain, often in the context of traditional beliefs about witchcraft or supernatural forces. These individuals may exploit the fears and beliefs of a community to establish themselves as authorities on spiritual matters, providing services like divination, protection against witchcraft, or identifying supposed witches.
Spiritual entrepreneurs typically offer services that involve supernatural claims, such as healing, protection, or divination. They might be diviners, traditional healers, or even religious figures who claim to have special insight or powers. In communities where belief in witchcraft is strong, they may perform rituals or provide charms and spells to protect individuals from supposed witchcraft.
These individuals often capitalize on the fears and anxieties of community members about witchcraft and supernatural harm. By offering solutions or interventions, they can gain influence and financial benefits. For example, they might charge for identifying witches, conducting exorcisms, or providing protective talismans.
Spiritual entrepreneurs can hold significant power within their communities, leveraging their supposed spiritual authority to influence local decisions and social dynamics. Their involvement in witchcraft accusations can legitimize these claims in the eyes of the community, leading to serious consequences for those accused.
The activities of spiritual entrepreneurs can have dire consequences, including inciting violence against accused individuals, perpetuating fear, and exasperating social tensions. By affirming suspicions of witchcraft, they can provoke community actions that result in ostracization, violence, or even death.
In summary, spiritual entrepreneurs are individuals who exploit traditional beliefs and fears about the supernatural for personal gain. Their actions often play a pivotal role in witchcraft accusations and the ensuing social and physical consequences for the accused.
We've talked about who Witchfinders are. Now let's discuss how they operate. Diviners and spiritual healers use rituals, such as throwing bones, consulting ancestors, or interpreting signs, to determine whether someone is practicing witchcraft. The diviner's verdict is often taken as definitive, leading to accusations and subsequent actions against the identified person.
In some traditions, physical abnormalities or unusual behaviors are seen as signs of witchcraft, as in the case of the witch marks or teeth searched for in the Salem witch trials. These can include marks, scars, or specific physical features believed to indicate a person's association with the supernatural.
Historical, and in some cases, contemporary practices involve subjecting the accused to physical ordeals, such as the infamous swimming test, where the accused is thrown into a water to see if they float, considered a sign of guilt, or sink, considered a sign of innocence. These tests are often based on flawed logic and can lead to harm, regardless of the outcome.
As an accused person, you provide the traditional priest with a chicken. You will have to provide the chicken. They will cut the head of the chicken off and throw the chicken down, and the chicken will flap, 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 flap. And if the chicken ends on its back, dying on its back, you are declared innocent. When the chicken ends up dying on its stomach, you are a witch. You are guilty. It's as simple as that.
Accused individuals may be coerced or tortured into confessing to witchcraft. These confessions are sometimes extracted under extreme physical or psychological pressure, making them unreliable but still influential in the community's judgment.
In some religious communities, leaders might perform exorcisms or prayer sessions to identify and expel witchcraft. These practices can lead to the identification of individuals as witches based on the leader's interpretations of spiritual manifestations or perceived demonic influences. In some cases, visions or dreams lead to witchcraft accusations.
Two of the key ways that people are determined to be witches is individual dreams. People just have dreams. And I dream that some kind of animal is chasing after me, or I see someone in the family in my dream, and we're having an argument or some kind of disagreement or even a fight in a dream, and I fall ill. I conclude that it is that person who is causing my illness.
Accusations often occur when people are trying to interpret misfortune. In cases where someone has fallen ill, they may be convinced to name a witch who has attacked them.
And sometimes sick people, even children, when they are sick, you find pressure on the family, on the sick people to name who it is in the family that has bewitched them. So sick people can mention names, that it is my auntie, it is grandma, it is my stepmother, those kinds of things.
Sometimes accusations arise from public gatherings, such as funerals or communal meetings, where rumors and suspicions are voiced openly. In these settings, community members may collectively decide that certain misfortunes or unexplained events are the result of witchcraft, and a specific individual is then targeted.
Motivations behind witch finding include economics, the desire for power and influence in the community, personal grudges, fear of the unknown, and a desire for explanations. Regardless of these inner motivations, accusations are most often fueled by genuine belief in and terror of witchcraft.
In some cases, individuals accuse others of witchcraft to gain economically. This might include the desire to inherit property, settle debts, or eliminate competition for resources. For example, someone might accuse a neighbor to gain access to their land or assets.
Particularly in areas with scarce resources, accusations may be a method of controlling or eliminating competition. This is often seen in polygamous societies where co-wives or their children may accuse each other of witchcraft to gain favor or resources from a husband.
Leaders or influential community members may use witchcraft accusations to eliminate rivals or consolidate power. By accusing someone of witchcraft, they can remove opponents or instill fear in others to maintain control.
Accusations can be a tool for enforcing social norms and punishing those who deviate from expected behaviors. This includes targeting individuals who are seen as outsiders or who do not conform to community or religious standards.
Individuals who hold spiritual authority, such as diviners or traditional healers, may accuse others of witchcraft to reinforce their own status and control within the community. These accusations can also serve to demonstrate the spiritual entrepreneur's power and legitimacy. We have even seen this in historic witch trials, where individual religious leaders believed that the presence of witches was proof that the devil had it out for them personally because they were effective in their ministries.
In families and communities, jealousy and competition can lead to accusations. For instance, when one family or individual's fortunes improve while another's do not, the less fortunate may accuse the more successful of using witchcraft to gain an advantage.
Family members may accuse each other of witchcraft due to internal disputes, jealousy, or as a means of explaining family misfortunes like illnesses or deaths.
Deeply ingrained beliefs in the existence and power of witches can lead communities to scapegoat individuals as the source of their problems. This cultural backdrop supports and perpetuates the fear that drives witchcraft accusations.
In some religious contexts, witchcraft is associated with evil or moral corruption. Accusations may arise from a perceived need to cleanse the community of immoral or evil influences, as dictated by religious beliefs.
People often turn to witchcraft accusations to explain misfortunes, illnesses, or deaths that lack a clear cause. This need for explanation in the face of uncertainty can lead to accusations based on traditions and fear of the supernatural.
Accusations of witchcraft impact individuals, families, and entire communities. Violent attacks on accused witches can include stoning, burning alive, and other forms of physical, sexual, and psychological violence.
Damon Leck told us,
very often the accused is summarily killed, executed, whether stoned to death, killed with a machete, set on fire in a house, often with family members, long before the police even get involved.
And Leo Igwe has said,
They're burying people alive in Zambia. I cannot be in Zambia. They're burying people alive in Nigeria. I cannot be in Zambia. I cannot be in Nigeria. They're burying people alive in Cote d'Ivoire and some other places, they told me. I cannot be there. Burkina Faso. So the problem is huge.
Preeti Lalaksha Nagavini put it this way.
Victims suffer mental and physical brutality in very shocking forms like lynching, parading naked, social ostracization, and even being burnt alive by mobs.
Sashi Pravabinhani told us,
earlier, there was a trend that people used to kill the women and used to come to the police station and surrender them that we had killed her done. So we did a great thing because she was responsible for a lot of such stories around that also.
And individuals with albinism are subjected to cruel attacks, where body parts are taken for potions and medicine, usually while the victim is alive for increased potency, as Ikpanwoza Arrow told us.
And so these people were easily hunted, easily found, and their body parts were hacked off, limbs, hair, and fingers. Many times the attacks were done by machetes because there was the belief in witchcraft that if you take it from a live person, the witchcraft potions you make out of those body parts will be more potent.
In addition to outright violence, accusation victims face humiliation, ostracism, the denial of basic rights, and banishment, as Miranda Forsyth told us.
The ones that even didn't lead to physical violence, you still have stigmatization, which has an incredible psychological toll on people. People talk about the fact that they've got this brand on their forehead that they can just never, ever wash off or get rid of. Anytime something goes wrong in the community, then they are afraid that they are going to be reaccused.
And Peter Minter Amadou added,
and the deep-seated pain alone is so much to bear for some of the women.
Accused individuals are often forced to leave their communities. In Ghana, accused women go to so-called witch camps where they face poor living conditions and exploitation.
In other cases, exorcisms and cleansing rituals can be physically and psychologically traumatic.
Tens of thousands of unhoused children have been accused of witchcraft and abandoned by their parents. Other children receive psychological scarring from witnessing attacks on accused witches, including sometimes their own parents or grandparents.
Torture is often used to extract confessions or as punishment for alleged witchcraft.
Forced marriage sometimes occurs in witch camps or as part of cleansing rituals.
Accused individuals may be imprisoned, often without due process, for their own safety in some cases, and in some areas, laws against witchcraft are still prosecuted by government authorities.
The stigma and fear associated with accusations cause severe emotional trauma.
Accused individuals often lose access to education, healthcare, and other essential services.
Some practices involve long-term enslavement of accused individuals.
And forced ingestion of harmful substances is sometimes used as part of testing for witchcraft or curing the accused.
Accused individuals are often cut off from their families and support systems. As Samantha Spence says,
socially, they are socially excluded from communities if accused, so they can be shunned by neighbours, relatives, and their own families. And that leads to isolation and exclusion from society. And women are sometimes mostly left vulnerable and on their own. Not only that, they are marginalised economically as well, because they can lose their livelihood and communities will drive them out, and then they refuse to engage in any form of economic transaction out of fear of superstition.
Sometimes perpetrators resort to parading accused witches naked or subjecting them to other forms of public shame. Neelish Singh recounted one such story.
In one of the village, I think it was around 60-year-old lady. She was called as witch by other women of that village and also male people of that village. And all of them, they stripped this woman naked in front of the village. And then they applied some black color on her face and made her parade around the village and all those things.
Whole families can be targeted by witchcraft accusations, as Damon has said.
When an individual in a family is accused, the entire family is suspect. Everybody in that immediate family is endangered. The potential accusation of witchcraft could be leveled against any one of them.
Even within families, individuals can choose different sides. As Samantha Spence has noted,
it causes rifts within families. So it puts the younger generation against the older generations, because whose side do you want to be on in this witchcraft battle? Do you want to side with the accusers, or do you side with the victim? Because if you side with the victim, you automatically become tainted with the same brush.
John Azuma told us of the implications within a family.
When people are accused of witchcraft, their own biological children will disown them. They will say that you are no longer my mom. You are now some kind of demon. And so you don't deserve that kind of empathy or sympathy from me. And that is what makes witchcraft, that's why the lynching is so common.
And as Damon Leff has told us, witchcraft accusations affect entire communities.
It doesn't just affect the family that's accused. It affects everybody in that village. The chaos unleashed by an accusation affects the youngest members of that entire village. It's traumatic. It has to be traumatic for young children to see this kind of violence and aggression, not completely to understand what's happening. And it will forever form a scar on that particular group. I don't think that 10 years down the line, they could look back at what they did and feel okay with it. It's difficult for me to conceive that.
Now we have some good news. Change is happening as we speak.
Advocates around the world are facilitating the effective end of witch hunting. Many grassroots organizations and international coalitions are working to address harmful practices. These organizations are making the world aware of this crisis and promoting active interventions.
But the process may be long. Professor Ronald Hutton recently stated that he believes it may take 200 years to complete the end of these practices.
However, Leo Igwe believes people are ready for change in the near future.
Of course, they will always tell me, but it takes time. I say, how long does it take? Sarah and Josh, look, how long did it take Africans to adopt SIM cards, all these cell phones, laptops? I mean, they announce it in the US, iPad or iPhone, within weeks or months. It's here in Nigeria. You have many Nigerians. We will manufacture cars, and within months, the cars are here. Now, stop killing your parents and relatives in the name of witchcraft. They say, but it takes time. I say, how long did it take you to adopt the cell phone? How long did it take you to adopt the cars? And how long did it take you to start having virtual conferences, virtual internet websites, and things like that?
One place where advocates have succeeded at change has been the United Nations.
On July 12, 2021, the United Nations Human Rights Council adopted Resolution 47A on the elimination of harmful practices related to accusations of witchcraft and ritual attacks.
As the UN itself says, in its Resolution 47.8, the Human Rights Council expressed concern that harmful practices related to accusations of witchcraft and ritual attacks had resulted in various forms of violence, including killings, mutilation, burning, coercion and trafficking of persons, torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment and stigmatization, particularly for persons in vulnerable situations, including women, children, persons with disabilities, older persons, and persons with albinism, and that these forms of violence were often committed with impunity.
This resolution urged UN member states to condemn harmful practices, take all measures necessary to ensure the elimination of harmful practices amounting to human rights violations, prevent witch hunts, and prosecute perpetrators.
The resolution also called for the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights to submit a report on these harmful practices in 2023.
On February 1st, 2023, the office released the study on the situation of the violations and abuses of human rights rooted in harmful practices related to accusations of witchcraft and ritual attacks, as well as stigmatization. The link is in the show notes.
The United Nations is not the only multilateral diplomatic organization involved. In 2021, the African Union's legislative body, the Pan-African Parliament, released guidelines to member states on implementing national action plans for eliminating harmful practices and other human rights violations.
In Papua New Guinea, a sorcery accusation-related violence national action plan was created to implement a holistic process for changing attitudes and stopping harmful practices.
Now let's talk about a few ways for you to get involved this World Day Against Witch Hunts.
First up, you can join us on Saturday, August 10th, 2024 at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time for a special World Day Against Witch Hunts conversation about harmful practices related to accusations of witchcraft and ritual attacks. We will share a short presentation and then answer your questions. See our Facebook page for more information and invite your friends and family.
Also join the International Network Against Accusations of Witchcraft and Associated Harmful Practices for our World Day Against Witch Hunts special online expert workshop featuring Leo Igwe, Miranda Forsyth, Sudesh Gururao, and William Kapongi. This will be held August 10th at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. That's 12 midnight on Saturday morning if you're in the U.S. Pacific time zone.
If you are in Nigeria, you may attend two events hosted by Advocacy for Alleged Witches. A seminar will be held at 9 a.m. local time in Owerri, Imo State, and a community outreach meeting will be held at 10 a.m. in Makurdi, Benue State. Contact the Advocacy for additional information. The link is in the show notes.
This September, Lancaster University in England is hosting the International Conference on Witchcraft and Human Rights, Past, Present, and Future.
Sarah and I have been invited to speak as representatives of End Witch Hunts, our nonprofit organization dedicated to raising awareness of harmful practices.
We need your help to get there. Support us by helping fund our trip. Visit endwitchhunts.org/donate to contribute.
And visit the internationalnetwork.org for more information on the conference.
Whether or not you are able to attend any of these events, you can make an impact by sharing about World Day Against Witch Hunts with your friends and family. Share posts on social media and start conversations online and in person about modern witch hunts and harmful practices.
And check out the organizations we've mentioned in the episode. Links are in the show notes.
Mary Bingham is back with a Minute with Mary.
Many people will be reflecting on World Day Against Witch Hunts differently. Some will share stories and articles on social media. Some will gather and share stories in person or virtually. Some will attend Josh and Sarah's Facebook Live event to learn more about this international crisis. Some may light a candle and spend a few moments in silence. I look forward to rising early to listen to a panel of advocates offering presentations for the International Network Against Witchcraft Accusation and Associated Harmful Practices. Then I will spend a quiet day sitting at Sawmill Point overlooking the bend on the peaceful Ipswich River in Massachusetts, pictured here, where Sarah Wilds lived as a child, and edit a chapter on her biography. After, I plan to walk the grounds where she and my other two grandmothers accused as witches lived and died, reflecting on their lives and legacies, and thinking of all those who have recently lost loved ones as a result of harmful practices due to wrongful witchcraft accusations. I look forward to learning how others choose to reflect on this day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
And thank you for watching or listening to this special episode of Witch Hunt.
Join us next week when we celebrate our 100th full episode. with a look back at what we've learned in 2 years of podcasting about witch hunts.
Have a great today and a beautiful tomorrow. And remember, World Day Against Witch Hunts is Saturday, August 10th.